Hi, so in this video I want to go over something that a class design developer for World of Warcraft said tonight. A couple of very interesting things, one of particular interest to all classes and specs. Now, this guy came to talk to the Ret Paladins in the Hammer of Wrath class Discord, but there were a couple of things that are going to be of interest to people that play whatever class and whatever spec, particularly if you're DPS. Now, what I've been noticing, a few other people have as well, is that you go onto the Battle for Azeroth Alpha and there isn't a lot of two-target cleave there. In fact, there's basically none for my spec, and it's a bit limited for a lot of others as well. And of course, we know that, you know, especially now that we know that some changes are coming in, we know that obviously things are going to be changed, some abilities are going to be changed, all the rest of it. So when are we going to be getting the two-target cleave? Well, here's the thing, we're not. There's a conscious decision, philosophy decision, that in Battle for Azeroth, people won't have two-target cleave habitually. The particular developer said this, I'll put it up there. It says, we intend for all specs, and then in brackets, with the exception of two-target specialists, Destruction, Frost Mage, Arms Warrior, to enter their AoE rotation on 3+ targets. So in other words, if you've got two targets, you're going to be DPSing one of them, unless you are one of those 3 two-target specialists. So what that basically means is mages, warlocks and warriors will have a spec that allows them to specialize for two-target cleave. So from a raiding point of view, which is what I tend to think of, there aren't many fights where you sort of need this. There's the odd fight. If you think about it in Legion, there's been a very small number of fights where this would be a benefit. Usually if you go into Cleave, there's multiple mobs, so it's not a big deal. And also we think about it this way, that's 3 classes out of 12. So there's 9 of them, the majority, 75%, that will not have this capacity for two-target cleave, will be more sort of specialist in other areas, which is sort of fine before people sort of go, oh no, because as I say, the number of fights where that is really useful is few and far between. In dungeons, again, it's very rare that specifically it's two-target cleave you need. Same when you're soloing. So for a lot of content, it's not that big a thing. But it will be those that have that specialism, and the rest of us presumably will do a lot more on AoE. If you think about it, for a lot of other classes and specs, AoE abilities tend not to have a limit. So if you've got like 10 mobs around you, just let's say, then again, you're going to be doing 10 times as much with your AoE as if there was just one. Whereas with some of these specs, notice if it goes above the 2 or 3 targets, they don't actually get any extra benefit. So it all works out, it all balances out. So that's quite fine. But if you are playing a class or spec and you're either in the alpha or you're looking from the outside at going on and thinking, you know, when's the two-target cleave going to come in? It's not unless you play one of those 3 specs. And that's a conscious decision. That's a philosophy decision for BFA. Now, the other interesting thing, which is sort of more generally known, but I hadn't really thought about it before, is particularly if you want to give some feedback on talents. Now, a lot of people will be thinking, you know, in terms of particular talents, I know as a Ret Paladin, we've had a few little talents come back that we haven't had for Legion, but we have had previously. Some abilities been coming back, been very well received. And it's easy to sort of think, oh, if we only had this back and this back and this back. And what I'd say is, first of all, you have to bear in mind there are only 21 talents. Individual rows tend to have themes as well. There might be a mobility row, there might be a defensive row, there might be, you know, a single target row, an AoE row, something like that. So you've got to think it's got to fit somewhere in the theme. Now, the other thing that the person said here is, specifically in terms of their position, left, middle, right, it says the left column talents should be not a new active button, not a super complicated talent, something a new player can read once, understand, and it just works. It doesn't mean it should be completely forgettable passive. It should at least have some gameplay for you to think about. Active talents are usually pushed all the way to the right column. So what that means in a nutshell, let's say there's a particular talent that you're not very keen on, and it's a left-hand talent, and you think, oh, that's a bit boring. I prefer such and such to come back instead. Do bear in mind that those left-hand ones are supposed to be ones that are very easy to use and not active. In other words, it's not an extra button, okay? Or it's not ideally supposed to be an extra button. I think the principle is, or what's suggested as the principle for this is, a new player who doesn't spend a lot of time reading the talents, if they're going eeny, meeny, miny, mo, they're much more likely to basically go, do you know what, I'll just pick the one on the left. It's closer to the direction I read in. Or maybe they get to read the first one and go, yeah, that sounds all right, bang, done. So the left-hand side is deliberate. If you like, click those ones on the left, that's new player friendly, is the idea. So just bear in mind, if you're going to suggest a change or a removal of a left-hand talent, you need to suggest an improvement or a replacement that would fit that criterion of it being suitable for new player. Otherwise, it won't get a look in. Okay. The other two, it did sort of say in theory, you know, increases in complexity as you can move along, but that doesn't necessarily mean that the more complex one is on the right. It's like the position of the middle, the second and the third one, they're not that bothered about. They're just specifically interested in must have a relatively straightforward talent on the left. So there you go, two really interesting bits of news there. Wouldn't it be wonderful if we could all have chats with the developers on a more regular basis like this, because it was absolutely fantastic. Thanks very much for watching. If you enjoyed it, don't forget to like, comment, subscribe and share with other people who might also be interested. And until next time, I'll see you later.